So Solana has a lot of meme coin activity, and I believe that not so long ago there was so much meme coin activity that it temporarily crashed something, and then there was a slowdown. Um, how do you guys feel about this? You know, as being part of the Solana team, you built it with the intention of, like you said, Nasdaq on chain, and today it's dominated by the meme coin, which is it's So, welcome everyone to another episode of Tekka Talk. Assalamu alaikum and hello. Today we have with us Alex Scott, who leads Superteam Middle East. He runs hackathons, developer workshops, and networking events to support the Solana network. His goals are to grow Web3 talent, funding, and new tech adoption in the Middle East. Welcome, Alex, and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Great. Thank you for the wonderful intro. Lovely to see you again, both Shireen and Morad. A little bit about me. I'm originally from Canada. That's why I sound like an American, but I moved to the UK where I spent most of my career. Started in management consulting, financial services, actually a little bit of time in insurance, which I'm sure we'll discuss later. And then before going to my MBA at London Business School, and then spent most of my career actually at 7.5 years at Amazon, leading product and engineering teams. Before joining the world of crypto 3 years ago, left Europe, moved to the UAE, started a crypto on-ramp company, which sadly didn't work out, but I was already fully committed into Web3, went and worked with Ledger, the hardware wallet company, on smart contract security, and then the last year with the Solana Foundation, working on Middle East expansion. So yeah, that's the brief history.
Fantastic. So you said you're fully committed to the Web3. Why? And what brought you to it?
Yeah, I think so. It was really that DeFi summer. I want to say like summer of 2021, or even 2019. Really was learning about smart contracts on Ethereum. Programmable money just made so much sense to me. Having seen the way that large multinational insurance companies and banks were being run with a lot of inefficiency, the fact that now the transfer of value is programmatic. I became obsessed very quickly, spending any free time that I had only reading up on Twitter or blogs about the topic. So when I say fully committed, now there's just no other topics that really interest me to the same way that Web3 does. I think it's just such a fascinating space. The fact that it opens up global opportunities, that you can work very much remotely and with people from all over the world on a topic that is at the intersection of computing and finance. It's just there's nothing else like it. So that's what I mean by fully committed. There's nothing else I'd rather work on.
You talk about two concepts which are important. Number one is programmable money, and number two, as you said, the current big banks, insurance companies are poorly run or they're inefficient. There's a lot of inefficiency. Can you give us an example of what the problem you see is with the big banks and insurance companies, and how does programmable money actually help?
Yeah, I can give. So the example from my insurance days. So this was post financial crisis around 2010 to 13. There was a lot of regulation aimed at strengthening these companies, right? From the lessons that we learned in the big crises of 08, 09. For insurance companies, that meant that they needed better documentation and transparency around the risk modeling. Right, so like how are you maintaining enough capital that you can cover the risk in the future, so that we don't end up in a situation where huge insurance companies just go bankrupt and put the entire system at risk. So part of my role as a consultant was to help the client to get ready for that, and doing that meant that I had to go through and review all of their operations, analyzing every step of this guy creates a spreadsheet, then passes it on to this guy, who then adds in some numbers, and then that goes on some review process, and all of these things are in files stored in different locations, and very kind of haphazard and very kind of organic human process, which is always going to be inefficient when compared to something more automated and transparent, like what we have on with smart chains, smart contracts and blockchain. Um, so I think why is it like this? I mean, this is an old, relatively old industry that has evolved over time with technology. A lot of people that are working in these institutions often started their career without even Microsoft Excel. So they've like learning and layering on top technology as it's evolving. So part of it is just like natural human tendency to maybe like resist change or be slow to adopt new tools, but then also just momentum and inertia, right? Like if you've been doing something well for 30 years and you haven't had the need to change it and disrupt your entire business, then why would you? What incentive is there to really like radically shake things up? And as the larger that these institutions get, the more risk averse they become. So there's a number of different factors, but I do think it's like I was probably a little bit naive, like thinking that immediately there would be some overnight change. This is something that is going to take probably an entire generation to fully play out. But for me, it's as inevitable as companies using relational databases to monitor their operational data. 20, 25 years ago, that no one was doing that. And then it took companies, like a new generation of companies like Amazon, like Google, to completely disrupt and dominate and kind of squeeze the other companies out of existence. But it took a long time for that to happen.
So let's help people go down this rabbit hole a little bit more, because you are talking about insurance companies, and what you've related is just a lack of adoption of new technologies, and not specifically Web3 technologies. And this is a question I get asked a lot, right? So as we're building our insurance platform, a lot of people are saying, well, why do you need to do this on Web3? What is the point of the blockchain at all? And of course, I have my answers, but in your opinion, why it wouldn't an insurance company simply, in the scenario you described, simply by adopting, let's say, Web2 technologies that improve a lot? What is the point of going even further into Web3?
I think if things like the transparency, full automation, removing like the human processes, if those things are important, then Web3 is just a far superior technology, because it starts with those assumptions. It starts with the assumption that things should be transparent, and like as a user, I should be able to actually go in and examine the source code and see how things are being run behind the scenes. Whereas Web2 is a kind of the opposite way. All of these databases are closed by design. They're set up in ways that are not transparent. And so I think like starting with Web3 just builds on completely different assumptions that opens up like a totally different way of operating. But maybe to those people, if those things don't matter, then yeah, you might reconsider it. If you if you want to continue to do things the ways that they were being done, then by all means, you should continue using like the old technology and systems. But I think what you're doing with Takadao is more of this like totally reinventing or reconsidering the assumptions that about the business model and how users interact with the business.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. So transparency, it sounds like something nice to have, but in fact, when it comes to insurance, it's actually absolutely critical, because without the transparency, it leads to abuse. So they can do whatever they want behind the scenes and nobody knows what's happening. And that's what is happening today. And that's why the insurance companies are universally hated. It's almost nobody who says, well, I like them, my insurance company. And I think that has a lot to do with transparency. So I think if somebody was to reimagine what insurance should be like, it would 100% have to be transparent from day one. And like you said, the only technology that takes this as the sort of the default is Web3. So yeah, definitely transparency is super important in insurance. Let's switch a little bit and talk about Solana. So you started off as a founder, and today you're with Solana running Superteam. Do you want to just walk us through that journey? What happened with your early startups, and what made you come to Solana?
Yeah, the first startup was. I mean, look, with hindsight, it was the peak bull run. It was a co-founding relationship with someone I had never met in person before, so there was just all the elements of risk piled on top of each other. I walked away from it because it was just like a personal clash, working styles. We were not able to align on what the product vision should be, and it was like, okay, 4 or 5 months into it, I said, look, this is. It just wasn't meant to be. So unfortunately, like we'll part ways. Left on still good terms. I think the lesson that I took away from it was really you want you need to pick partners that you are compatible with and that you've probably vetted through working together. In your case, I mean, you're a husband and a wife couple, so you can probably teach me more about this than, than I've experienced. But like, you're essentially marrying the other person when you go into a co-founding relationship. So you should consider it as that kind of the depth of that relationship. Um, yeah, so I don't know if you have any thoughts on that, but yeah, also happy to talk about the kind of the Solana transition and moving into more of an operator role.
Yeah. So and then what happened with so that relationship didn't work out, and then you went on to found another company. Oh no, I'm sorry. You went
Yeah, I
on
went.
to work
Yeah,
for
I was.
Ledger.
Yeah, so at that point, it was my goal was really to go like much deeper into the technology side, and so I saw an opportunity. Was speaking to Ledger, the hardware wallet company, which I think a lot of people would consider at the kind of the forefront of security in Web3. So jumped on that opportunity to work with the team, which is based in Paris, but I was working remotely all across the Europe at the time. And yeah, just took it as a chance to get very deep into security, how to warn users before they get rugged, as you'd say, or have all their assets drained out of their wallet. What kind of warning signals can you give them before they hit the sign transaction button? Turns out there's a lot. There's a lot of interesting on-chain data that you can use, like see how long ago was this contract deployed, how many people are using it, was it reported by any other people as having suspicious activity, and then also like examining the transaction before it's executed as well. You're able to simulate this and kind of predict what's about to happen. Did that for about a year. Had a lot of fun, met some great people, and then was introduced to the Solana team, which initially the I met the team that is based in India, and what excited me actually had nothing to do with technology. It was actually about economic opportunity. So they had multiple examples of 17, 18-year-old kids that were like just barely out of high school earning on par with like US peers working for big companies like 5,000, 10,000 US dollars a month, which where they come from was like life-changing money. Some of them had built homes for their families, completely changed how they thought about university education and what opportunities were available to them. So for me, this vision of using crypto not just as a fun and exciting technology, but actually as a way of improving access to economic opportunity and also addressing the like a much bigger issue of how human capital is allocated across the world. Like people are just randomly, like very, very smart people are just randomly spread out all over the world. But unfortunately, that means that a lot of them are not able to access the top jobs and the best opportunities, which for humanity is actually a problem. There's like probably trillions of dollars of wasted human capital just like locked away without access to the right opportunities. So I pitched to the Solana Foundation why they should consider something in the UAE with access to capital, really good crypto network and service providers, and favorable regulation. So yeah, we took a chance. There was a bit of a gamble. They were a little bit unsure about Dubai, UAE, and the Middle East kind of more generally. But now, 12 months later, I think the story is much different.
You talk about human capital and economic opportunities. Now, how does Solana enable this for people around the world?
Yeah, so a good example is we have a platform called Superteam Earn. You can go to earn.superteam.fun, and anyone with a laptop and internet connection and a Solana wallet, could be Phantom or any of the other wallets, is able to apply for both fully remote jobs, um, which are open to anyone, require no visa, and don't even actually require a bank account to get paid, because everything can be done transacted in crypto. We also have, let's say, like smaller things like bounties, which are like kind of mini challenges. But for example, would be write a Twitter thread about Takadao and how it's revolutionizing insurance, and the top 3 submissions can win a prize, typically like a few $100s. That's often like the first kind of entry into this before people progress into like more serious roles around like design, engineering, research.
Okay. I'm gonna ask you the same question I asked earlier. That sounds like something that can be done on Web 2. And you could argue that Web 2, there's a lot of freelancers, a lot of people making good money on Web 2 today. Again, why the need to go into Web 3 and specifically Solana?
So actually the piece about the payments is very uniquely unique to Web3, right? So the fact that I can just download the wallet into my browser, and now I'm able to make payments. I can earn that first crypto without having any KYC, without even a bank account, which actually is a really big deal for both when maybe it's a young person that is being held back. Maybe their parents are like not fully supportive of their ventures and like learning and trying to earn their own money, and they can now make that decision on their own without a parent like creating a bank account for them. Or they're in a region where it's actually very difficult to access the traditional financial systems. So for a VC-backed company in the US to pay someone in India or maybe Pakistan is probably a great example of this, or structurally like very challenging places like Syria, where that American company would just say like, I don't want to deal with that kind of payment, and I'm just going to ignore that. Like, it's like a non-starter. It won't even happen. And there's other reasons that those people in those countries in Western Europe or in the US would choose not to say like directly contract or employ someone in those other countries for visa issues or political reasons. But on the internet, nobody knows or cares really where you are for the most part. And especially in Web3, I think there is more of a sense of, I can interact with this person even though it's just a PFP. I don't need to question what gender they are or what background or religious affiliation they have. I can judge purely on the output of this person and compensate them accordingly.
So it's very much about payments. So the key unlock here is there's human capital all over the world. And even though we have the connective tissue, so-called internet, and the communications technology, but the real gap is still in payments. Being able to communicate but not being able to get paid. This is the blocker here.
I think this is definitely a big part of it. But there's definitely I have to say there's something about also just like the type of work or like the fact that this is in crypto, that it is like people don't really think along like border differences, or like there's much less of this kind of like old mentality of like only people like I only work with people in my region or country, and there's sort of like a cultural thing that comes with this as well, that when you make everything crypto native and it's only crypto projects that are posting, that it's also creating the kind of environment that is more conducive to like people like working fully remotely across borders, across time zones, working asynchronously. Like it self-selects for a group of people that are just like inclined to work in that way, that the Upworks and these other freelancing platforms just do not have that mentality.
Got it. All right. So you actually started Superteam in the UAE, and you went to Solana and you said we need to do something in the UAE. And you have obviously you're here now in Saudi Arabia, and you guys you want to develop the market here as well. So you're very bullish about the Middle East. Why?
Yeah, I think so. Different countries for different reasons. Like we talk about the Middle East, but this as one collective, but it's a little bit disingenuous or not giving credit to how unique and diverse the countries are. UAE is a very unique place, relatively small population. I think 8-9 million people, 95% foreigners, non-Emirati. So we do not have the talent pool to compete against the likes of Turkey, India, even Saudi Arabia with 38 million people. Here it's about regulation, capital, and the, like, say, global community, or like the networking opportunities that you have here. Saudi Arabia, next say, like, most interesting country for me at the moment, for completely different set of reasons. For me, it's around a very young and hungry population. I think 60% of people are under the age of 30, and at least the data that I've heard anecdotally from, like, the crypto exchanges like Rain, is that the young people are extremely hungry for crypto. And, like, prior to the kind of shift in government regulation, it was like very, very high adoption, as high as 70-80% among people under 30. So that's a big plus. I think there's a second thing in Saudi, which is I think when the government is fully supportive of a new technology, they will fully back it and drive this with a lot of strength. From some of the conversations that I've had, I believe that day of regulatory clarity is coming, hopefully sooner rather than later. But for me, there is an inevitable switch where I think Saudi Arabia can become at the forefront of this kind of, like, global crypto race, because it is still so early. If I look further across the Middle East, we have deep talent pools in places like Jordan, Egypt, which have a history of, like, very strong engineering schools. And I know many of the people that emigrate abroad or have very, like, strong technical backgrounds. So I would love to have those conversations with people in at the talent level in places like that. And then we have other pockets of, like, regulatory, say, like, innovation in places like Bahrain. Qatar is about to release, I think, some new digital asset regulation strategy. So yeah, I think every country kind of has something interesting going on, but I feel like many different interesting pieces that can actually fit together very well.
Let me ask you about Solana. What is the story of Solana? And a lot of people, they know about Bitcoin, obviously, and they know about Ethereum. Tell us about Solana.
Yes. So actually, younger than all of the competitors or the other blockchains that you mentioned. I think only founded roughly 4 or 5 years ago now by Anatoly and Raj. The original vision was Nasdaq on chain, so, like, trading stocks and equities using the blockchain. And Anatoly, or Toly, as we kind of like casually refer to him, comes from a very strong telecommunications, like system networking background, and always had like this desire for something very fast, cheap, scalable. Was kind of baked in at the genesis of all of this. So yeah, I'm not sure the origin story between him and Raj, but they were raising money back in, I think, 2018-19, and yeah, the, like, mainnet has been live for, I think, 4 years as of April this year. So relatively young, right? If you look at Ethereum, I think the equivalent timeline is like 8 or 9 years. So there's like that's a huge gap when something like a project is basically been only alive as 50% as long as its nearest competitor. So I think you see that reflected probably in the ecosystem. Tends to be much earlier stage, right? Like the founders that I'm helping and supporting are in that, like, pre-seed, seed, some coming up into their A round, whereas that's like a cycle behind a lot of the big Ethereum projects, which would have raised those big rounds in 2017, 18, or even into that the last bull run. So still fairly early, but I think, at least from what I see in my position, kind of on the ground with founders, there's a very strong community thinking long term and building things on multi-year time horizons. So yeah, still very optimistic, despite having a sort of a slower start than others.
We'll be right back after the break.
Taka Talks brings you stories from around the world that will help you understand how crypto and Islamic finance can change our lives for the better. Subscribe and follow to keep learning. So Solana has a lot of meme coin activity, and I believe that not so long ago, there was so much meme coin activity that it temporarily crashed something, and then there was a slowdown. How do you guys feel about this? You know, as being part of the Solana team, you built it with the intention of, like you said, Nasdaq on chain, and today it's dominated by the meme coin, which is, you know, it's a cultural movement, I want to say.
I mean, for me, I love it. I welcome it. I think as long as people do this responsibly and don't overextend themselves, treat it for what it is, which is a bit of fun, and not like a serious way to like generate wealth, then it's fine. I think unfortunately, there's always, like, in the long run, 99% of these tokens go to zero. That's just the way it is. So I think, sadly, a lot of people get caught on the wrong side of that trade, and then will blame everything but their own judgment for that trade. I think what we're seeing now, it is the technology being so fast and cheap and accessible has really just enabled like a new level of this. So people are able to make, you know, very small transactions and place bets and spray and pray across you know, dozens or hundreds of tokens even. But it's also something quite similar. Like, I think in 2017-18, during Ethereum's ICO craze, we saw a lot of kind of similar type activity. There were celebrities at that point as well, launching their own tokens and disappointing people with the financial returns. So it's an old game, I guess, with a little bit more speed and probably the velocity of memes and you know, with things like TikTok, Twitter, technology, kind of social media just advancing and getting faster and faster and tightening the algorithmic loops. Things spread faster and accelerate even faster. So I think there's probably a more optimistic way of looking at this. Is we are starting to see now the financialization of almost everything, the ability to tokenize everything. It is starting with things that are like very relatable to the mass market, like celebrity personalities or funny memes and jokes. My hope would be that a lot of what we learn out of this can be transferred over to more long-term value creating things like communities and companies. And once this kind of initial mania wears off, we'll take the good parts of this and actually use it to create long-term value.
Yeah, so just came back from consensus, and unfortunately I didn't have the chance to meet the Solana team there. I was so busy with but what do you see the trend now coming, and what do you see Solana, you know, in the next, especially with the bull round coming soon, and the projects that are coming that are so exciting for you into your network now?
Yeah, I think I'm excited about a couple areas. One, DeFi, decentralized finance. So, for example, I'm working with a Dubai-based team called Flash Trade. They enable the trading of perpetuals on a decentralized exchange, which means with no KYC or creating it without even creating an account, you're able to do leverage trading on Solana, Bitcoin, Ethereum, and a handful of other assets, including foreign currencies like USD and the euro. So they've done $3 billion worth of cumulative volume in the last 6 months since they launched. They're really interesting because the liquidity provider model on the back end is very, let's just say, lucrative. Like, as someone that has provided liquidity there, I don't suffer from the issues of traditional automated market makers with impermanent loss. The distribution like across those the assets is kind of like stable, and it prints daily yield in USDC, which was super interesting. And then they also have a quite an innovative NFT loyalty program where you buy an NFT and you're able to level it up as you do more and more activity, and the NFT becomes more valuable, and then also makes you eligible for rev sharing and some token allocation in the future. So that's one interesting area. I think another is decentralized physical infrastructure. I was chatting with a project yesterday that just raised or that just got into the Coliseum Accelerator, which is like the YC for Solana. And their whole idea is to allow you to monetize spare electricity at your house so that people can charge their electric vehicle. At the beginning, it'll be scooters, bikes, this kind of thing, but I can buy $100 charging unit, stick it on the side of my house, and then charge people that want to come and charge their motorcycle or bike, eventually their car. So, you know, a super interesting model, which is enabled by crypto because you can make these microtransactions and like and charge based on the electricity usage quite easily, and people have the kind of the token incentives to continue to build the network and host nodes. So, yeah, those are the first two that come to mind.
You know, the thing is, there's a lot of pushback against I want to say projects that are focused on trading, just because it feels like there isn't a net positive to the world in the way the world works. There's just, you know, more and more efficiencies on the trading side, which, yeah, I guess there's some value creation there, but how does it really impact the world?
I get that. I hear that a lot. I think maybe this is a little bit of like the post-financial crisis rhetoric. I think that that I think kind of misses the point of like how ingrained or like how important finances or financial systems are in society, right? So the fact that I can take a loan to buy a house, right? Like having the ability to take a mortgage, which allows me to buy a property that is like beyond what I could just afford, kind of in straight cash, but then be able to pay that back over time, right? Or the ability for someone to take a business loan and then start a business, create new economic activity that they otherwise like did not have the initial starting capital for. These mechanisms like help create like a tremendous amount of value in the world, right? Like I think most of the world as we know it today wouldn't exist if we didn't have these mechanisms or the ability to track money and understand who owes what, or find mechanisms for people to pay each other back. You know, and trading assets and allowing people to make money by speculating on the price of assets is also creating value. Like it's not the same as someone like as tangible as baking bread and then offering that to people, and it's maybe not as relatable, but it is for sure value creation, and I think it's a little bit sort of short-sighted or like kind of narrow view of the world to consider that like all financial these like kind of trading and speculation is not valuable to society. It serves a function.
Quick question I wanted to say. I see a lot of layer 0, layer 1, layer 2. So every time I go to conferences, I see fastest, newest technology, and I still have issue with a real use case. So I see a lot of infrastructure play, but not yet, product market fit for general massive adoption. And then another thing is like with all those layers, and then you have to build when you build a project, you have to go multi-chain in order for you to increase your base of users and stuff like that. How do we consolidate this kind of industry where we will finally have something that works for everybody and it's more like
Yeah.
So yeah.
I think it's a great question. I would say like this. I think the overemphasis on infrastructure tends to be a Ethereum world problem or EVM world issue. When you come to a Solana conference, like Breakpoint, if you go in Singapore, there is very little discussion about infrastructure because that problem is kind of not solved completely, but it's like it's not an issue, right? It's the teams that are building are more focused on say like consumer applications and building things of value for actual users rather than getting lost in infrastructure and bridging or like building another L2, finding ways to manage liquidity that's like now fragmented across the ecosystem. So that's one distinction I would make. I think how to solve that.
But there are also a lot of L1s, so there are a lot of competitors,
For
new
sure.
competitors or wannabe competitors to Solana, Ethereum, even Bitcoin.
Yeah, I think here, I don't think I have like a full like comprehensive answer to this one, but I think definitely we're still early in how people invest, and I think some of the investor incentives are maybe not aligned exactly with creating value at the real world or user level. So there's probably here's a cynical take: is like a lot of these like sophisticated infrastructure plays are just like VCs like piling money into things that sound impressive, that are likely to get like follow-on money and continue to raise money without like actually considering the end game. They're probably just trying to get in early so that they can make some 10 or 100x and then exit that position. It does feel like that sometimes when I see some of these decks or get deep into these topics. Maybe a more charitable explanation is that there are like just very difficult problems. Ethereum has like a tremendous head start and a lot of legacy issues that need to be fixed. There's a lot of momentum behind that, and it requires capital to fix those issues.
I think it's the capital is like really driving. I mean, pushing into that direction, and they are less. They don't see it relevant yet to go into supporting dApps and stuff like that more than the infrastructure play, and they are still betting in getting the best infrastructure that will eventually the industry, I think.
Well, the value proposition for lots of these layer ones is, so you have layer ones that are targeting AI applications, you have layer ones that are targeting gaming applications, and then you have a bunch of other layer ones who target, I don't know, various different things. In your opinion, how do you see the future of this? Is it going to end up being there will be a bunch of different layer ones for specific use cases? Or are we going to go back to these general use Solana, Ethereum type of layer ones?
I mean, you're asking someone that's tremendously biased, so I think that my bias might reflect in my answer, which is I think general purpose L1s can handle all of these things that you described. We have IONET is a GPU as a service. We have multiple depin projects that are offering 5G physical infrastructure, or the electric charging example that I gave you, DeFi protocols doing billions of dollars worth of volume, all on the same L1 without any need of like fragmenting liquidity or making developers' lives more difficult. Everything is on the L1. People learn one tech stack. They just know like there's one mainnet, and it works. And it is scaling, and it's handling and attracting a ton of new users. So from where I sit, I feel like maybe these L1 alternative L1s are creating problems that don't exist that have already been solved because of financial incentives. It's still early in the game, so yeah, maybe they are saying let's take a shot at taking that crown or a segment of that. And if the VC money is flowing in that direction and that aligns with the narrative, then they will probably succeed in getting funding. They might even be able to compete. But personally, not a bet that I would take, just given the amount of momentum and talent that I see being attracted into an ecosystem like Solana, it's like extremely hard to catch up and compete at this point.
Makes sense. All right, so tell us now. Let's pivot a little bit to Superteam. What do you guys actually do in the UAE?
Yes. Look, my overarching goal here is find the next billion-dollar company founder in the UAE. So how do I do that? Well, okay, there's a bunch of people here already. Some of them are working on really interesting ideas. So I'll host meetups to get to know them, give them opportunities to come co-work with me, like what I'm doing next week, to pitch their ideas, to pitch their businesses. In some cases, we might make some small grants or help them with introductions to service providers or lawyers or investors who might help them on that journey. I also look abroad. So, for example, in February, I brought 50 founders to the UAE from 25 different countries. And here is like me just mass importing the best brains that I could find, everyone building on Solana, and then pitching to them why they should consider setting up an entity or taking residency in the UAE. All of these people, I track them. I figure out who's who. If some of them go on to win hackathon prizes, I get credit for that. My budget increases because I was able to find more talent, help them succeed. Hopefully, some of them will go on to raise money and then continue spinning that flywheel. Some of them will hire people and make the ecosystem bigger and stronger. But yeah, all of my activity is really focused on that one singular goal: is just identify and nurture the next big VC backable company building using the Solana blockchain.
And what is your pitch to founders then? So we are founders, obviously, and we are building what I would consider a very valuable Web3 company. What would you say to us to come build with Solana?
Yeah, I think I actually wouldn't pitch you. I would just bring you to some of our events. So I'd bring you to the hacker houses in London or Dubai, the Breakpoint in Singapore, and for you to see and experience for yourself what is a very passionate and talented group of people that have a lot of options, but are choosing to focus their energy because they are surrounded by like-minded people that are aligned with this mission. They are very passionate about the technology. They see the value in the ecosystem and the teams, and being around like-minded builders. I think this is always the consistent kind of differentiator. I think probably you could get like easier grant money or like more immediate financial support from other blockchains, but what we do think is differentiating Solana is this community layer, the collaborative spirit of people, how helpful they are, the ability to like. All of my members have instantly a network of the most valuable, or most most highly vetted crypto builders in 16 different countries all over the world, and they all help each other. I've had people fly out from Dubai, go spend a couple weeks in Vietnam, and they instantly have this connection with a couple dozen people, and they can repeat that in key markets all over the world. So it's ultimately it's a people story and a people-based pitch.
I think one of the key challenges that founders built in the Web3 is really community building. And whether it's people who are trying to build a community of developers or trying to build a community of consumers, how does the Superteam and how does Solana help that?
Yeah, I think physical, we call it IRL, in real life meetups is the base kind of table stakes. So hosting those meetups, feeding people, right? Like having a place every month where we meet up, watch this ecosystem call together, having that ritual, giving them a place to meet each other, to chat with other like-minded people. It really starts there. Then we tried to build, I think every community is like a little bit different. For me, I have a few different archetypes, but like one would be the freelance developer who's maybe from Europe, but set up a legal entity in the UAE and kind of travels around the world. You have like more business marketing focused people that maybe have their own YouTube channel or creating content regularly. And then you have like the founder that is, pitching to VCs and like trying to get investment and growing their team. So I really think very intentionally about like what each of those people like archetypes want, right? And then creating value specifically targeted to those people. So maybe that's for the content creator, it's like creating earning opportunities or events that are tailored to meeting other people from that create content in other industries that want to collaborate, or bounties, for example, like posting bounties where they can win $5,000 to create the best video about Superteam UAE. For the founders, it's going to be typically it's around VCs, right? Access to VCs. So I spend every time I go to a conference, I'm building my database of Web3 VCs that want exposure to Solana founders. I'm constantly building up that database so I can offer that value to the founders. So when I make them a member, I say, look, I give you priority access. When you're ready to raise money, I can send out the emails and kind of send your pitch deck around to the right people. So I think it's just, you have to know who is the target in the community, who are the people there, and then how do you just make yourself more and more useful to them every day.
How big is the community now? And in terms, I know that I heard like 1 million people on the Ethereum, but how many members now you have in your network?
Well, members, yeah, I can interpret that in different ways. There's like active wallets, there's developers on Solana, there's and then my community as well. I can give you a few numbers, which is, so Superteam globally, it's about 1,000 members. That's like at the top level of like our community kind of status. Those are the most active and engaged people. And there's a mix of developers and non-developers. For stats on number of people building on Solana, I don't have that off the top of my head, actually. So I would have to follow up with you on that number. I don't want to give you an inaccurate figure, but I mean, it's definitely smaller than Ethereum, right? I think just the as a function of time, and the EVM space is just massive, right? You have, because of all the different L2s and the fact that it's been around longer, better documentation, more capital, it just attracts, like, it's the default choice, I think, for most developers. So
yeah. So right now, if young people basically in Saudi Arabia, they're interested, for example, in Solana and wanted to build on your network, how do they reach out in terms of do you have somebody on the ground, or you have some people to talk to? How is it that they can start with our community here?
Yeah, I'm based in Dubai, but flying to Riyadh quite frequently. I think at this point, the best thing to do is just DM me. You can find me on Twitter or X, AF Scott. This is very much will be community driven. So anyone that is interested, if you think, hey, I love the sound of this, I want to get involved in this community. We're actually, right now, I'm able to empower you to make your own meetup. We can, all the food, beverage, everything will be taken care of by us, and we make it very easy for you to host. But it's if you're ready to kind of take initiative, start a meetup, and start building this community. I'm looking for people that are on the ground, ready to kind of take action and work with me on that. Ultimately, it should be the best insights will come from people in the ecosystem on the ground already, not a guy who flies in like every month from abroad. So very open to being told actually like what the ecosystem wants and needs at this point.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Alex. This was a very interesting conversation. Again, thank you for coming on the show, and I will look forward to speaking to you again soon.
Perfect. Thank you so much.